Are you preparing or running an MSCA Staff Exchange project and wondering how the funding units actually work? Not sure what roles your organization can take or which type of contract applies to your seconded staff? And what about employment conditions during the secondment? If these questions sound familiar, this video is for you. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through the key legal and financial aspects of MSCA Staff Exchange, funding units, roles and contracts, and the employment rules for seconded personnel. The MSCA Staff Exchange, the funding model is entirely unit-based. This means that beneficiaries do not report actual costs. No invoices, no payrolls, no financial statements based on real expenses. Instead, funding is calculated automatically according to person months of secondments, using fixed unit amounts. Also, the EU grant acts as a top-up to the salary of the researcher, supporting the cost incurred for the secondment. As you can see in this image, the top-up for the researcher covers costs such as travel, accommodation, and subsistence during the secondment. Additionally, the institution will manage the remaining contribution to cover the researcher activities such as training, knowledge transfer, networking, and management activities related to the project. The final individual monthly allowance is €5,170 per month for each seconded staff member. This unit is paid for each completed month of secondment, regardless of the staff member's seniority or actual salary costs. Let's talk now about the roles of the different organizations participating in the project and the type of agreements that they need. Because the MSCA Staff Exchange is a consortium-based instrument, there are several participants that will sign the grant agreement. These participants are called beneficiaries. Their main characteristic is that they receive the EU funding, they manage it, they report on the project, and they ensure compliance with labor law and the MSCA rules. They are also the one responsible for seconding their staff and hosting seconded staff from partners. Another type of participant is the so-called associated partners. They do not sign the grant agreement and do not receive EU funding directly. However, they fully participate in the secondment either by sending or hosting staff. Their obligation, roles, and financial arrangements are negotiated with the beneficiaries and defined in a separate contract, such as the consortium agreement or in another dedicated partnership agreement. The European Commission has no role or influence on these additional agreements. For seconded staff, two types of legal arrangements are possible: employment contracts or agreement with non-employees. The employment contract is the most common one. The staff member remains employed by the sending organization during the secondment. On the other hand, agreement with non-employees is possible in some cases, for example, if the person is recruited through alternative national schemes. But the organization must still ensure social security coverage and compliance with the grant agreement. Remember, all secondees must be linked to the sending organization either through an employment contract or an equivalent formal agreement. Finally, let's look at the employment conditions during secondments. Throughout the secondment, the secondee remains employed by the sending organization. And this organization is responsible for paying the salary, maintaining social security contributions, and ensuring health and safety coverage. The unit contribution from the grant contributes to the cost, but may not fully cover them. The hosting organization do not become employers of the secondee. However, they are responsible for providing the working environment, access to equipment, training, supervision, and any institutional requirements for visitors. Secondments can be carried out in one block or split into shorter mobility periods, but remote work does not qualify as secondment because physical mobility is required. Also, beneficiaries must ensure that the secondee works full-time on the project during the secondment, that the secondment is properly documented, for example, with agreements, time records, travel proofs, and any top-ups needed to comply with labor law are covered from the institutional funds. That's it for this overview of the legal aspects in MSCA Staff Exchange. If you have questions or need tailored advice for your project, your research is here to help. Just get in touch with us.